Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're looking at something pretty profound, entering the stream of Dhamma.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's all about achieving liberation from suffering, which is a pretty universal goal, right?
Definitely.
We'll be using the book of the same name by Phra Ācariya Thoon Khippapañño as our guide.
Great book.
So let's jump in. What exactly does it mean to enter the stream of Dhamma? It sounds kind of poetic.
Well, it is, but it's also a very real stage of enlightenment in Buddhism.
Okay, so there are like levels to this,
Yeah, kind of. The book explains that when you reach this first stage,
which is called
it's called sotapanna.
Sotapanna.
You're basically on a one-way track to nibbana,
And just to remind everyone, nibbana is
the end of suffering, the ultimate goal.
no more suffering.
No more suffering.
Sounds pretty good to me. But I'm guessing it's not just a matter of wishing really hard, right?
No, definitely not. The author's really clear that it takes cultivating the right way of thinking and seeing the world.
Right view and right thought, like we've talked about before.
Exactly. It all aligns with the Buddhist teachings.
So do I have to go meditate in a cave for years to get there?
You know, that's actually a great question because the book talks about these pre-Buddhist hermits,
Okay.
and they were masters of samatha.
Samatha.
It's basically concentration meditation, like super intense focus.
Okay.
And they could reach incredible states of tranquility, but
Here's a but there.
there is a but. They never actually reached enlightenment.
So just having a calm mind isn't enough?
It's a piece of the puzzle, but there's got to be something more.
Right. I'm on the edge of my seat here. What's the missing ingredient? What helps us break free from those negative patterns that keep us suffering?
That's where Vipassana comes in. It's often called insight meditation.
I've heard of that, but it always sounded so intimidating.
I get that. It sounds like you need years of intense study.
Yeah, like something only monks can do.
Well, here's the good news. The author really emphasizes that we all have a basic kind of wisdom already.
Wait, so you're saying like just going about my day figuring things out, that's a form of wisdom?
Exactly. It's that ability to observe, analyze, make decisions.
Like when I finally figured out how to assemble that ridiculous bookshelf from IKEA.
Exactly. The book actually says that's the very foundation we need to understand and apply Buddhist teachings.
Wow, that's really encouraging. So it's like we're not starting from scratch, we're already working with something.
Exactly. And that foundation helps us develop what the author calls conviction rooted in reason.
Okay, so it's not blind faith, it's like understanding why you believe something.
You got it. The author really encourages us to think critically about the teachings, not just accepting them blindly.
So question everything.
In a way, yeah, that questioning, that critical thinking is actually key to developing right view.
And making progress on the path.
Exactly.
That makes sense, but honestly, even with that, I imagine there are still tons of doubts and temptations that can make it hard to stick with the practice.
Oh, absolutely. The author talks about some really common ones like feeling unworthy of enlightenment,
Oh yeah, I feel that one.
or just feeling totally overwhelmed by everyday life.
That's the one that gets me, like when I'm trying to meditate and my to-do list just keeps popping into my head.
It happens to everyone. And, you know, the author even shares this story about these whispers that might come up during meditation, saying, you haven't done enough good to deserve enlightenment.
Like tempting you to give up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trying to derail your practice.
So how do you fight back against that?
The book really stresses relying on your own inner wisdom to see through those tricks.
So it's all about developing that discerning mind, the one that can see clearly.
Yes. And that's where mindfulness comes in.
Okay, so how do you actually cultivate that sharp, clear-seeing mind? Is it just thinking harder?
It's less about mental effort and more about paying attention to what's happening inside your mind, like really being present with your thoughts and feelings.
Just noticing them without judging yourself. Okay, that makes sense. So if you're more present, you can see those harmful thought patterns and start to break free from them.
You got it. The author has this analogy that I really like. He compares wisdom to a driver studying a map before a journey.
I like that. So wisdom helps you navigate the path, avoid those wrong turns in your mind.
Exactly. The author says wisdom illuminates things, like a bright light cutting through darkness.
It makes me think of that saying in Nati paññā sama ab.
Beauty.
It means there's no light as bright as wisdom, which really shows how central it is to this whole journey.
And it's through that wisdom that you start to see how everything is impermanent.
The suffering, the lack of a solid self, in anything.
Exactly.
And I guess that's what eventually leads to a sense of detachment and freedom.
It is.
This is all incredibly insightful, but I have to admit, it can feel a little abstract sometimes. How do we actually put this wisdom into practice? Like, how do we make it real in our everyday lives?
That's where the author's exploration of the four modes of mind comes in.
Okay, what are those?
They are Vedana, Sanya, Sauhara, and Vinyana.
Whoa, those are some serious Pali terms. Break it down for me. What do they mean?
So Vedana is feelings.
Feelings, got it.
Sanya is memory.
Memory.
So Kara is those thoughts that are all kind of jumbled up together, often fueled by desire or aversion.
The ones that just spin and spin in your head?
Exactly. And Vinyana is consciousness.
Okay, consciousness, that big one.
The author dives deep into each of these, explaining how they work and how we can use them as tools for developing wisdom.
So these are like the basic building blocks of how we experience the world, and each one has the potential to help us on the path.
That's it. And he gets really practical with it too.
Let's start with Vedana then, feelings. What are the key insights there?
Well, the author points out that Vedana includes all kinds of feelings. Pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral.
So the whole spectrum.
The whole spectrum. And even those pleasant feelings, the ones we usually chase after, can be a trap.
Oh, how so?
They're fleeting, always changing. And that's what can lead to attachment and suffering when we try to hold on too tightly.
So even the good times can be a source of suffering if we're not careful.
You got it. The author actually warns against getting caught in the constant pursuit of pleasure.
Because it never lasts.
Never lasts. Like that saying, what goes up must come down, right?
Exactly.
Recognizing that pleasure is always changing is key to breaking free from that cycle of always wanting more, more, more.
So it's not about avoiding pleasure, it's about understanding its nature.
Exactly.
Okay, what about sanya, memory? How can we use our memories skillfully on this path?
The author suggests focusing on memories that remind you of impermanence and suffering.
Like remembering that everyone gets old and
Yeah.
eventually dies.
Yeah, reflecting on things like aging, sickness, even death can be really helpful.
So it's kind of morbid.
It might sound that way, but it's not about dwelling on the negative. It's about using those reminders to fuel your practice, to help you see the urgency of waking up.
Like, hey, this life isn't going to last forever. Better make the most of it.
Exactly.
It's like that classic story of the Buddha encountering an old man, a sick man, and a corpse, which led him to search for a way out of suffering.
Powerful images that stuck with him.
Now, Sakara, those compounded thoughts seems like a tricky one.
Oh, it can be a real mess in there sometimes. It's like all those stories and fantasies our minds spin up, usually fueled by desire or aversion.
The what ifs and if onlys.
Yeah, all those mental loops that keep us trapped in worry and anxiety.
So how do you deal with that?
Mindfulness is key. By becoming more aware of those thought patterns, you can start to loosen their grip on you.
So it's not about suppressing those thoughts, but more about noticing them and not getting so caught up in them.
Got it.
Okay, last but not least, vinyas, which is consciousness. What's the key takeaway with this mode?
This is where things get really deep. The author explains how consciousness can actually create this false idea of a permanent self.
Whoa, so our own consciousness is tricking us.
In a way, yeah. It's through wisdom that we start to see the true nature of consciousness and how it plays a role in creating that illusion of a solid me.
So it's like we're identifying with these fleeting thoughts and feelings, mistaking them for some permanent entity.
Exactly. And that mistake causes a lot of suffering.
So how do you see through that illusion?
By developing wisdom, by seeing things as they really are, impermanent and ever-changing.
So it's like realizing that our sense of self is kind of like a wave, constantly forming and dissolving back into the ocean.
Beautiful analogy. And that realization can be incredibly freeing, helping you let go of that clinging to a fixed idea of who you are.
It sounds like a huge relief.
It is.
So we've looked at these four modes of mind, but how do they all connect to the path of actually ending suffering?
That's where the Four Noble Truths come in. They're kind of like the foundation of Buddhist practice.
Could you give us a quick refresher on those? Like, how do they relate to what we've been talking about?
Absolutely. So the first noble truth is that suffering is a part of life. It's unavoidable.
Okay, everyone experiences suffering in some form.
Right. And the second noble truth is about the cause of that suffering.
Which is?
Craving, attachment, ignorance, all those things we've been talking about.
Makes sense.
Then the third noble truth is more hopeful. It says that suffering can actually end.
There's a way out.
There is. And the fourth noble truth tells us how to get there. It's the Noble Eightfold Path, which gives us all these practical tools for developing wisdom, compassion, and ethical conduct.
So it's like a map for getting out of suffering.
Exactly.
And that path includes morality, concentration, and wisdom, all the things we've been exploring so far.
It all ties together beautifully.
This is really interesting how it all fits together. But what happens when we really embody these teachings? Like, what does that shift in consciousness actually feel like?
Well, the author describes the arising of a paññā,
Which
transcendent wisdom.
And that's not just like learning more information, right? It's a deeper way of seeing things.
Exactly. It's like all the pieces of the puzzle click into place, and you see the truth with incredible clarity.
Like a sudden awakening.
It could be sudden or gradual, but it's definitely a profound shift in how you experience reality.
The author uses the word Buddho to describe this state, which means one who knows, one who is awake, and one who has blossomed. It's a beautiful way to capture that transformation, isn't it?
It is. And the author also emphasizes that it doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to keep learning and growing.
So what happens after this awakening? What comes next on the path?
The author describes an experience of nirodha,
Nirodha. Okay.
which means cessation,
Cessation of what?
of all those mental and sensory activities that usually keep us so busy and distracted.
So it's like complete stillness, a break from all the mental chatter.
Exactly. It's like stepping out of the constant stream of thoughts and perceptions.
And is that like the end of consciousness?
No, it's not about consciousness disappearing. It's more like finding a peaceful refuge within yourself, a space of profound stillness and freedom from that cycle of craving and suffering.
Sounds amazing.
It is. And within that stillness, there's this pure awareness that remains, untouched by all the mental clutter.
And the author describes this state as the lustrous mind, right? Emphasizing its purity and regal.
Exactly. Like all the clouds have parted and you can see the clear sky of your true nature.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is.
But this isn't the end of the journey, right?
Not
I
quite.
think there's more.
There's more. The author says that after this cessation, there's this incredible surge of courage and insight.
So it's not just about finding peace, but then using that peace to go even deeper on the path to liberation.
You got it. Your mind becomes empowered to actually get rid of all those impurities that have been holding you back.
And that leads to nibbana.
Ultimately, yes. It's a gradual process of purification and awakening, culminating in the complete cessation of mental intoxicants.
It's called asavakayana, right?
You remembered. That's when all those mental poisons that cause us to suffer are finally extinguished, and you reach the unconditioned state of nibbana.
Wow, what an incredible journey. We've explored so much already, and I feel like there's still so much more to unpack about this path to entering the stream of Dhamma.
There definitely is.
But I think the most important takeaway so far is that the author really stresses self-reliance.
Absolutely. No one can hand you enlightenment. You cultivate it through your own efforts, your own understanding.
So you can use the teachings as a guide, but ultimately you have to rely on your own wisdom to navigate the path.
Exactly. And that makes me wonder, how do you balance that emphasis on self-reliance with the interconnectedness of all things? You know, the author talks about letting go of attachment, even to pleasant feelings. But how do you appreciate joy and beauty without clinging? Where's that sweet spot?
That's a great question. I guess it speaks to how this is a lifelong journey of discovery, always new layers of understanding to uncover. I
Exactly.
feel like we've just scratched the surface here, and there's so much more to explore.
Oh, there definitely is. But this is a great start, and I hope this conversation has given you a taste of the richness and depth of these teachings.
Me too. Thanks so much for sharing your insights with us today. It's been a truly enriching dive into entering the stream of Dhamma.
My pleasure. Always happy to dive into these topics with you.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. We hope this episode has sparked your curiosity and maybe even inspired you to start your own exploration of this path to liberation.
Keep practicing, keep questioning, keep learning, and most importantly, keep opening your heart to the wisdom and compassion that's available to all of us.
Beautifully said. Until next time, may you all find peace and clarity on your journey.
You know, one thing that really struck me in the book is how even experienced meditators,
Like people who've been practicing for years.
yeah, even they can get tricked by their own minds.
That's kind of scary. If they're not immune, what hope do the rest of us have?
It's not about being perfect. It's more about having safeguards, ways to make sure you're on the right track.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these safeguards.
Well, one thing the author emphasizes is constantly checking your understanding against the teachings.
So not just assuming you've got it all figured out.
Exactly. It's easy to get swept up in cool experiences or think you've reached some special level.
It's like that saying beginner's mind, always staying open to learning.
Yeah. The author reminds us that this path is gradual. You need patience, humility, and that willingness to keep learning.
So no spiritual ego trips.
Uh-huh, right. No getting attached to the idea of enlightenment.
Wait, so even that can be a trap?
It's a bit of a paradox, but yeah, getting attached to the idea of enlightenment can actually be another obstacle.
Because it's still a form of clinging.
You got it.
So how do you avoid that trap?
The author suggests focusing on the practice itself, on cultivating those qualities that lead to liberation, rather than getting fixated on some future state.
So enjoy the journey, not just obsess over the destination.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the author's emphasis on wisdom.
That ability to see clearly and make wise choices.
Yes. And the Four Noble Truths give us a really helpful framework for applying that wisdom.
Okay, remind me about those truths again.
So the first noble truth is acknowledging that suffering is a part of life.
Yeah, it's not about pretending everything's fine.
Right. It's about being honest about the reality of suffering.
And the second noble truth is about the cause of suffering.
Exactly. Which is craving, attachment, ignorance, all those things we've been talking about.
Okay, and the third noble truth?
The third says that suffering can actually end.
There's hope.
There is. And the fourth noble truth is the path, the way to end that suffering. It's the Noble Eightfold Path.
Which includes mindfulness, right?
Yes. And ethical conduct, concentration, all those things we've been talking about.
So it's not just a philosophy, it's an actual way of life.
Exactly. The author really emphasizes that point.
I love how he talks about using the Four Noble Truths as a tool for understanding your own experiences.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
So how would you apply those truths to, say, a tough situation you're going through?
Let's imagine you're feeling totally overwhelmed by work.
Oh, been there.
The first noble truth helps you acknowledge that stress and overwhelm are forms of suffering.
You're not denying it, you're facing it head on.
Right. Then the second noble truth invites you to investigate the causes of that suffering. Like, what's contributing to that feeling of overwhelm?
Maybe you're taking on too much, or you have unrealistic expectations, or you're not setting good boundaries.
Exactly. And by identifying those causes, you can start to see where you have some control.
Where you can actually make changes.
Yes. And that's where the third noble truth comes in, that possibility of ending that suffering.
So it's not about magically wishing the problem away, but recognizing that there's a way out.
That's it. And the fourth noble truth, the Noble Eightfold Path, gives you all these tools for actually doing something about it.
So you're not just stuck, you have agency.
Exactly. It's about developing wisdom, cultivating compassion, making choices that lead you towards liberation.
It really highlights how our inner world and outer world are so connected, right?
Totally. And the author actually talks about this relationship between mind and world using the analogy of a stream.
Oh, yeah, I love that analogy. It's like we're all caught in this stream of conditioning, all these forces that shape who we are and how we see the world.
And we're often swept along without even realizing it.
Just going with the flow.
But the good news is that we're not completely powerless. We have the ability to choose our direction.
To steer our own boat, so to speak.
Exactly. And that's where practicing Dhamma becomes so important. It helps you develop the awareness, the clarity, the strength to navigate those waters skillfully.
So it's not just about changing your thoughts, it's about transforming your whole relationship to life.
You got it.
Yeah.
And wisdom is like that compass that helps you find your way.
It's like that line from the book, how wisdom reveals the truth.
Beautiful.
It's like you can finally see the stream for what it is, instead of just getting tossed around by the waves.
Exactly. And that understanding empowers you to make different choices, to create a more peaceful and fulfilling life.
This all connects back to the idea of right view, doesn't it?
It does. Right view isn't about blindly accepting beliefs. It's about developing a way of seeing the world that's rooted in wisdom and compassion.
And that right view then influences everything else, your thoughts, words, actions.
It impacts your whole being,
It's about aligning your life with the principles of Dhamma.
creating a more awakened way of being in the world.
And the author also talks about the different stages of enlightenment on this path, right? Ultimately leading to Nibbana.
Yeah, it's a journey that unfolds in stages, each marked by a deeper understanding and greater freedom.
Let's break down those stages, starting with entering the stream of Dhamma, becoming a Sotapanna. What actually changes when you reach that stage?
The author says a stream enterer has broken free from 3 specific mental fetters that keep us bound to suffering.
Okay, fetters, those are those mental chains that hold us back.
Exactly. And the first one is Sakayade,
Which is, remind me.
belief in a self. that clinging to a fixed, unchanging identity.
So a stream enterer has seen through that illusion.
They get it. They understand that the self is not this solid thing. It's constantly changing.
And that must be so liberating, to let go of that clinging to me and mine.
It is. The second fetter is vicikicca,
Which is?
doubt, uncertainty, especially about the Buddha's teachings.
So a stream enterer has moved past those doubts. They've found real conviction.
Yes, their conviction comes from direct experience, not just blind faith.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the third fetter?
The third is silabata paramasa.
Okay, that one's a mouthful.
I know, right? It means clinging to rituals and rites as the way to liberation.
So it's like understanding that true freedom comes from inner transformation, not from external practices.
Exactly. Rituals can be helpful, but they're not the essence of the path.
It's like cleaning the outside of the cup, but not paying attention to what's inside.
Perfect analogy.
So once you break free from those three fetters, you've officially entered the stream.
You've stepped onto the path of liberation.
And the author is very clear that once you're in, there's no going back.
No turning back.
So even though there will still be challenges, a stream enterer is basically on a one-way track to full enlightenment.
That's the idea. And they've got no more than 7 rebirths left before reaching Nibbana.
7 rebirths. That still seems like a long time.
It is from a human perspective, but compared to the countless lifetimes we've spent caught in suffering, it's nothing.
True, it's all relative.
And for someone who's tasted the freedom and peace of stream entry, those remaining lifetimes are seen as an opportunity.
To keep learning and growing.
Exactly.
What comes after stream enter?
The next stage is once returner, or sakadagami.
Sakadagami.
And they've weakened the next 2 fetters, sensual desire and ill will.
So they still experience those things, but they don't control their lives anymore.
Right. They have a much greater sense of peace and equanimity.
And they only have one more rebirth left in the human realm.
That's it. Just one more stop on the journey.
And then we have non-returner, or anagami. What's different about this stage?
A non-returner has completely eradicated those first 5 fetters we talked about.
Yeah.
Belief in self, doubt, clinging to rites and rituals, sensual desire, and ill will.
Wow, that's a lot of freedom.
It is. And they're not reborn in the human realm anymore. They go to a higher, purer realm and attain Nibbana there.
So they've transcended the human experience altogether.
In a way, yes.
And finally, we have the arahant, or arahata, the fully enlightened being.
The ultimate goal.
What sets them apart?
An arahant has completely eradicated all 10 fetters.
All 10. We only talked about 5. What are the other ones?
Well, the higher fetters include things like attachment to form and formlessness, conceit, restlessness, and ignorance.
So basically, any form of clinging or delusion is gone.
Gone. They've reached the end of the journey, extinguished all the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion.
And they're not reborn at all after death.
No, they've escaped the cycle completely. They've reached the unconditioned state of Nibbana.
It's amazing to think about all those different stages of awakening.
It really shows the potential we all have.
The author's own life is such a powerful example of that, dedicating herself to these teachings and helping others find liberation.
And his teachings are still helping people today.
It's incredible that we have access to this ancient wisdom.
I agree. And it's important to remember that it's not just about personal liberation.
What do you mean?
It's also about developing a heart full of compassion, a heart that's free to love and serve all beings.
So it's not just about getting enlightened for yourself, but using that awakening to benefit others.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our own liberation is inseparable from the liberation of all beings.
That brings up a question I've been thinking about throughout this whole discussion. We've talked about the importance of seeing the impermanence of everything, even the good stuff. But how do you avoid falling into despair? Like, if everything is temporary, what's the point? How do you find meaning and joy in that?
That's a great question, and one we'll dive into in our next segment.
Okay, so we left off talking about impermanence, and honestly, it's a bit of a mind bender. Like, how do you find meaning and joy when you really grasp that everything is constantly changing? Doesn't it kind of make everything feel pointless?
It's definitely a question a lot of people struggle with. But the cool thing is that Buddhist teachings don't shy away from impermanence.
They don't try to sugarcoat it?
Not at all. They actually embrace it.
Embrace it.
Yeah, because the author points out that it's a resistance to impermanence that causes a lot of suffering.
It's like we're clinging to this idea that things should stay the same, but that's just not how reality works.
Right. And all that clinging and grasping just creates tension and frustration.
So by accepting that impermanence is just the way things are, we can actually find more peace.
Exactly. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's true.
It's like that saying, what you resist persists.
Yes. And the author uses this beautiful image of a dance to illustrate this point. He says life is like a dance.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's constantly changing forms, sensations, emotions, thoughts, all flowing into one another.
It makes impermanence feel less like a threat and more like a natural rhythm, you know?
Exactly. And instead of fighting against that flow, we can learn to move with it, to appreciate the beauty of each moment without desperately trying to hold on to it.
So it's about enjoying the dance itself, not trying to freeze a particular moment in time.
Exactly.
This reminds me of what the author says about non-attachment. It's a concept that's often misunderstood, right? People think it means becoming cold and emotionless.
Yeah, like you have to detach from everything and everyone you care about.
Right, but that's not what it's about at all, is it?
Not at all. The author explains that non-attachment is about finding a balanced way to relate to your experiences.
So you can still feel joy, love, excitement, all of that, but without getting so tangled up in it.
You got it. It's about finding that sweet spot between fully engaging with life and holding it lightly.
That sounds like a tricky balance.
It is. It definitely takes practice.
And mindfulness is key, right? Being able to observe those feelings and thoughts without getting swept away by them.
Mindfulness and wisdom.
Because wisdom helps you see the impermanent nature of everything so you're not clinging so tightly.
Exactly. It's like you're not trying to deny those experiences. You're just seeing them for what they are, temporary and ever-changing.
This all goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how wisdom is such a crucial part of this path.
It is. It's the foundation of everything.
And the author talks about this process of developing wisdom using the analogy of polishing a mirror.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. It's so vivid.
He says that through mindful observation and reflection, we can gradually clear away the dust and grime of ignorance, allowing the mirror of our mind to reflect reality more clearly.
And that clarity is what allows you to see the interconnectedness of everything.
That web of cause and effect that connects us all.
Exactly. And with that understanding comes a sense of responsibility.
Because you realize that your actions have an impact, even the small ones.
And that brings us to the heart of the Buddhist path, cultivating compassion and loving kindness, what's called metta.
Okay, so we've talked about wisdom, but now we're bringing in the heart, the emotional side of things.
It's all connected. You can't have one without the other.
So tell me more about metta. What does it actually mean?
Metta is often translated as loving kindness, but it's even bigger than that.
It's not just about being nice to people.
It's more like unconditional friendliness, this deep wish for the happiness and well-being of all beings.
All beings, not just the people you like.
Everyone, including yourself. Metta doesn't discriminate.
So even that annoying coworker or that family member who drives you crazy,
Even them.
that's a tall order. But the author seems to be saying that it's not optional, that metta is essential to this whole path.
He is. He explains that as you develop wisdom and compassion, as you start to see that interconnectedness, metta arises naturally.
It's like your heart just opens up.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing is that there are actual practices for cultivating metta. Things like sending well wishes to yourself and others, practicing loving kindness meditations, engaging in acts of kindness and service.
So it's not just a feeling, it's something you actively cultivate.
Yes. It's about bringing that unconditional friendliness into everything you do.
And the more you cultivate it, the more those barriers between you and others start to dissolve.
Those walls of separation that create so much conflict and suffering just start to crumble.
It's like realizing we're all in this together, sharing this human experience.
Exactly. And that realization can be incredibly powerful, both for you and for the world.
So it's not just about your own personal happiness. It's about creating a more compassionate and loving world for everyone.
That's the ultimate goal.
This has been such a rich and insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and helping us unpack these profound teachings.
My pleasure. I always enjoy these deep dives with you.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. We hope this episode has inspired you to explore the path of entering the stream of Dhamma and discover the incredible wisdom and compassion that's available to all of us.
Keep practicing, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep opening your heart to the possibilities of awakening.
Beautifully said. Until next time, may you all find peace, clarity, and liberation on your journey.